We see maps literally every day. On our phones, in the news, in a classroom. We tend to see them as just simple guides, right? Just lines, borders, and names. But what if I told you they hold much, much deeper stories? We're talking stories of immense power, of ancient journeys, and of the invisible forces that shaped our world long, long before we ever drew a single border.
So let's start with a map we all know like the back of our hand, the political map. This is our version of the world, with all the countries colored in so neatly. It looks simple, kind of orderly, like a solved puzzle. But this is just the surface.
Because this map, well, it brings up a huge question. Why are the countries where they are? Why did some civilizations just pop up in certain places and not others? The answers aren't on this map. To find them, we've got to look deeper at what's underneath.
So first, let's just peel back that political layer. We're going to strip away all the countries, all the names, and just see the raw planet underneath.
And whoa, the change is immediate, isn't it? I mean, on the left, that's our world of agreements and conflicts. But on the right, that's the Earth's world. And suddenly you see the planet's real architecture. The jagged spine of the Andes, the vastness of the Sahara, the towering Himalayas.
These natural features, they were the original borders. They were the barriers that kept populations apart and the highways that brought them together. The Nile River wasn't just a squiggle of water. It was the absolute lifeblood that birthed an entire civilization. The Great Plains weren't just empty space. They were this massive, fertile engine for agriculture. But of course, that just brings up another question. Where did all these mountains and rivers even come from? To get that answer, we need to go even deeper and look at the engine that literally built the continents themselves.
Okay, it all starts way down deep inside the Earth. See, the planet's crust isn't one solid piece. No, it's fractured into these enormous tectonic plates that are constantly, slowly drifting across the molten mantle below. This, right here, is the world's fundamental blueprint. And where these plates meet, you get unimaginable force. All that grinding and colliding releases a staggering amount of energy. So this map, showing all the recent earthquakes, it's not just a random scatterplot. It is a perfect trace of those plate boundaries. It's literally a map of the planet's stress points. And that stress leads to some pretty dramatic results. The friction along these boundaries creates these zones of intense volcanic and seismic activity, like the famous ring of fire that circles the Pacific. This is where mountains are born, where the very ground beneath our feet is forged. Okay, so we've got our physical stage, built by all these tectonic forces. But a stage is empty without an atmosphere, right? Without weather. So now we need to add the climate, the system that decides where life can actually take root and thrive. And the main driver of our climate is, of course, the sun. This map of average temperatures shows a really simple but powerful reality. You've got intense heat at the equator and deep cold at the poles. This temperature difference, that's the engine for our entire global weather system.
But temperature alone isn't the whole story. The oceans act like this massive global heating and cooling system. These incredibly complex currents carry warm water away from the equator and cold water from the poles, and they dramatically change regional climates. They make a lot of places way more livable than they would be otherwise.
So when you combine the planet's temperature bands with its ocean currents, you get this beautiful mosaic. These are the world's biomes, and this is the canvas for life. It's what determines where you'll find a desert, or a rainforest, or those vast grasslands that can support huge herds of animals.
And to put it simply, a biome is just a large community of plants and animals that are all adapted to a very specific climate. Think of them as Earth's distinct neighborhoods, like the tundra, the desert, or the savanna. Each one has its own unique character.
All right, so the stage is set. We have the physical geography, we have the climate. Now, let's finally bring people into the picture and see how the human story is written directly onto this natural map. This is just amazing. On the left, you've got the migration paths of early humans spreading out from Africa. On the right, the physical map. See how the routes hug the coastlines? How they seem to just pour through mountain passes and curve around the big deserts? Our ancestors weren't just wandering blindly. They were following the grain of the land. And that geography didn't just guide where we went. It shaped who we became. The same mountains, deserts, and oceans that channeled our migrations also created these pockets of isolation. And in those pockets, over thousands of years, totally distinct cultures and languages developed, which you can see right here on this map of language family. And this is the key. Our whole history
is really just an overlay on this physical and climatic map. The borders of the Roman Empire, they were defined by the Sahara Desert, the Atlantic Ocean, and the deep forests of Germania. Great civilizations rose up along fertile river valleys. Our story is a story of geography.
So, let's bring all these layers together now. How does all this deep history still dictate the patterns of our world today?
This has to be one of the most powerful images ever taken. Earth at night. This isn't a map of borders or mountains. It's a map of us, of our cities, our economies, our presence. Every single point of light is a human settlement.
But look closer. Why are some areas, like Europe or the eastern US, just a blaze of light, while others, like the middle of Australia or North Africa, are almost completely dark? What story is this map telling us?
The answer is really an echo of all the maps we've just looked at. The lights are brightest along the coasts and rivers, the ancient highways for trade. They're all clustered in those temperate climates that are perfect for farming. And they're noticeably absent from the great deserts, the dense jungles, and the high mountain ranges that we saw on the physical map. Fundamentally, we are still a coastal, river-dwelling species following patterns set by geography millions of years ago.
And that brings us right back to where we started. That political map, with its neat lines and pretty colors, it isn't the beginning of the story, not even close. It's the very last page. It's just the summary of an epic tale written by tectonic plates, ocean currents, climate, and the long, long journey of humanity.
So the next time you look at a map, ask yourself, what am I really seeing here? Don't just see the border, see the mountain range that created it. Don't just see the city, see the river or the natural harbor that allowed it to be born in the first place. What hidden stories will you see